to the Unleash Success podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
You know, a lot of us might be struggling to even start one business and make that one a success. But lucky for us, our guest is Mr. Alex Brown, the co-founder of several different companies, most notably Dollar Beard Club, which earned over $10 million in its first year of business. Whether you're looking to develop the right vision in the startup phase or scaling your business to millions using proven strategies, Alex has done it all before. All right, Alex, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. That's quite the intro. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm very impressed by you, and I know you like to stay humble, but I really appreciate you coming on here. And I'd like to go into just a little bit about your backstory and how you became an entrepreneur to start.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is sort of the classic story of how to become an entrepreneur, but I started when I was super little, picking apples in my parents' backyard, and then with the help of my dad, selling them out front. And my dad actually had a construction company most of his life. So I kind of saw from an early age what it's like to run your own business and what goes into that, but also what comes out of it and the kind of freedom and flexibility that you have as well. And I was super amped to go and make money. And so I just kind of was like, hey, Dad, can I come work with you? And he's like, son, you're 10 years old. There's no way that's legal. But finally, when I was about 12 years old, I was strong enough to come and help. And, I probably got in the way more than I actually helped looking back now. But I was just super motivated to go out and make money and do stuff and build stuff. And that's kind of where it began for me. But then, my parents didn't go to college themselves. They'd done some continuing education. But so I was pretty excited to go to college, and that's what everybody around me was doing. So went to school for business right out of high school. And then I did really well in school, but like most people that graduate from university these days, they figure out they don't have the experience to get a job, and they can't get a job without the experience. So I went right back into doing construction and running my own business. And I'd been subcontracting for my dad for a while, and I started doing stuff with a friend and was making really good money, crushing it, but I was just super unhappy. It just wasn't something I could gain a lot of leverage in, and I wasn't committed to it. So I actually started to write a lot about, discover how people could go and get the skills they need through volunteering and go into something that they were a little more passionate about instead of just trying to be, whatever kind of job they could fit into. And that allowed me to network with some amazing startups. I actually got to speak government roundtables on behalf of young entrepreneurs. And that just kind of dovetailed into a number of different things. I worked in the startup space for a bit, helping actually a generic pharmaceutical business development firm. So we were helping companies get into new markets and stuff. So I learned more than I ever thought I would learn about pharmaceuticals, but it was a super cool experience because I got to talk to high-level corporate executives and stuff like that, and figured out that everyone's just a person, and at the end of the day, so don't put anyone on a pedestal. And that led me to eventually meeting Chris, my business partner in all these different ventures. And it was winter in Canada, and this was 4 years ago. I'm from Toronto, and it was very cold. And I met Chris, and he was in California at the time. And he said, what do you think about moving to California to help me out with these businesses? You and I work really well together. We mesh really well together. And I thought, hey, it's really nice in California. Maybe I should go check that out. So we moved to Huntington Beach, which is just north of where you are there. I think you're in Newport, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so Chris had started a wearables company, and I'm going way too long on my personal story, but this is where it gets interesting, I promise.
Awesome.
But started a wearables company called Vibe, and just needed a lot of help on a lot of things, operations, systems. And so I just dug in and started helping out as much as I could. And Vibe, unfortunately, it was bad timing on the market. We couldn't develop the product fast enough. We managed to fulfill all the Indiegogo orders, but we just kind of eventually had to let it go. We also launched a golf product that did really well. We landed it in Dick's and all these other different stores, but we realized that we had a knack for launching things, and other people started to ask us hey, how did you do this video and how did you do that? And at the time, we just had a collection of people that we worked with to do all this stuff. So we started an agency, and we started to pay the bills helping other people launch their products, launch their businesses, do crowdfunding campaigns, and got our teeth wet I guess cut our teeth on that is what my dad used to say, which is a very bizarre expression.
Is that a Canadian thing? I'm not familiar with that one.
Cutting your teeth. I don't know what that means actually, but I've said it quite frequently. But so yeah, we were just kind of in service to others and figuring out what the next move was. We'd attracted more and more guys at that time, and we're working out of kind of a startup house. And there were lots of times weeks at a time where Chris and I would sleep in the garage so that we could Airbnb our rooms to kind of pay for rent and groceries and stuff. So it was desperate times, but we were pretty committed to the vision. And then we launched.
Super committed.
Yeah. Then we launched our own product, Coolbox, which was the biggest success that we had. It was like a $500,000 crowdfunding campaign. Eventually landed Chris with an appearance on Shark Tank, which was incredibly awesome for our company. We were able to pass that off to Kevin Harrington, and he's a former Shark, and his team's now like taking that product to market and working with it. But we were able to fulfill all of our Indiegogo orders, which took longer than expected, unfortunately, and it's kind of taxing, but did the right thing, got everybody taken care of. And about that time as well, started the Beard Club, and this is just where things kind of really went mental, and we had to stop everything else that we were doing. At the time, we were just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what would stick. And the Beard Club stuck in a major way. And we thought it was going to be cool. So we had products made up, went to a contract manufacturer, took a look at what was out there. We saw, like, we were growing beards ourselves, just this organic thing of like, be who you are, be true to yourself, and grow your beard and just show your real colors.
Really a growing, people thought it was going to be a fad as far as like the beard trend.
Right.
And same though, it just kind of caught around in our culture maybe 5-6 years ago. And I was the same way. I started growing my beard around that time as well.
Yeah, it's just really picky. And it's funny, if you go back far enough, shaving's actually a trend. So that's always kind of my rebuttal. And people are like, are beards a trend? Like, have you ever seen photos of people in the Civil War? Like, come on.
Seriously. It's like everything goes in trends and waves, and all of a sudden it's beards are cool. Now, clean cuts cool, and then beards are back.
Yeah, but that's really how this business started. We were like growing our beard, being like, we're going to, grow businesses on our own terms. It's kind of silly looking back, but it was just this persona that we were playing into of, we wanted to do things on our own terms, and we didn't think we needed to fit into any particular mold to grow your beard. And we looked at what was out there, started using the beard products. We're like, these are great, but it cost $20 for beard oil, and we had big beards, so it was just kind of going too fast. We saw what other companies were doing in the subscription space. Dollar Shave Club had just blown it out of the water with their videos, and we were doing similar funny videos for other companies. So like, hey, let's, launch Dollar Beard Club and see how far we can take this. And people immediately got it. We'd built a pretty small launch list, but fortunately it was just people that immediately got it and were purchasers and had high intent. We also had a couple of advisors, Brandon Hampton and Dan Fleischman, who had built a lot of really influential people's Instagram accounts. So they were able to get us some pretty special pricing on that, and they own their own accounts. So we had this kind of viral snowball take place. And then after that, we got picked up on Product Hunt, started going wild on Reddit, and just went absolutely viral. And just the business completely took off. And I would love to say that that's where things got easy for us, but it's the old adage, mo money, mo problems. And we quickly ran into all sorts of growing pains because we weren't structured for that kind of growth. We outgrew our fulfillment center. We outgrew our website almost immediately. We tried to build different things onto the website, but it wasn't a very stable platform. So it wasn't scalable, and everything shut down multiple times. We didn't really know proper e-commerce tactics in terms of like upselling people and doing proper email marketing, whether it's cart bales or indoctrination, bringing people onto your list. We didn't really understand our retention metrics, and it was kind of like, Chris always used this great metaphor, which I think is so awesome. You're renovating a house while there was a party going on, and you have people like tracking paint through the living room, and you're just like losing your freaking mind, not knowing what's going on. But
that's a great metaphor. Oh man,
it's definitely great. I think like no matter what size your business is, everyone's been to that spot. But one thing that we really did well was we created a brand, and without really knowing it at the time, we tapped into this underlying thing. And anyone listening, I don't know if you've noticed this before, but you'll notice this after I say it now. There's this like motorcycle wave type thing that goes on between two guys with big beards, right? It's like a nod or a wave or something. It's an acknowledgement. Hey, I've got a beard. You've got a big beard. Like, we're the beard guys at this party or in this bar or whatever. And
dude, totally. I was walking out of the gym one time and some guy literally was swimming in the pool. Like, I don't know if he just like looked up at the side, but he stopped swimming and he yells, "Hey bro, nice beard." And I'm like, where's this coming from? He had a great beard too. I'm not going to deny that. I just was like, it's totally a thing that happens when you see another guy with a beard. You're just like, "Oh, nice beard, man." And I had it. Like, that was the craziest story I've ever had happen to me, but you guys definitely tapped into it.
Yeah, for sure. And it took a while for us to understand that was really what we were selling. And I think, again, anyone listening out there has probably had these little moments, but it's really easy to get caught up in trying to scale and the metrics. And these are all really important things of like, how much it costs to acquire a customer and what their lifetime value is and the different channels and how they retain and all these different levers. But at the end of the day, it's like anybody could have done what we did. Anybody and lots of companies, and we're friends with a lot of competitors, sell great beard oil at great prices. And really the reason people keep coming back to us is like this culture that we've created and that underlying current that we were able to tap into so cleverly. I think is just like the biggest lesson we learned in the importance of building a brand, building a community. And now we're going even deeper into providing value for people and really standing at like a member experience beyond just the product you sell. It's, that thing that gets people to stick around and your ability to retain their attention, trust, and loyalty for, 2 or 3 years and being able to communicate with them frequently in that time period and provide value for them opens up so many opportunities to sell them your own products or additional products that are great fit for them as well, or experiences or content, instead of just focusing on, again, which is really important, but not solely focusing on selling them 3 boxes instead of 2 or 6 instead of 5, So
totally.
That's kind of the biggest lesson we learned out of all that.
I love that blitz through your entire entrepreneur life, man. That was awesome.
I'll let you do some talking right now because I feel like it's just all about me, and I just want to know so much more about you.
Oh man, this episode's about you and only you. So I just want to throw out there too. There's so many things I want to hit on, but it was interesting because when you were a kid, you were exposed to the entrepreneur life growing up, but you decided to go to college. And there's a lot of people out there that maybe are deciding between going to college and starting a business, or are in college and thinking this is a waste of time. Do you think going to college was helpful in creating businesses later on or meeting new people?
So this is a great question. And I was literally asked this question last night while speaking at a university here in Canada. And I was like, ooh, because I never really know how to answer that. I personally feel like, taking a course online from an entrepreneur like myself who teaches like how to build a business might be an easier way, like a way cheaper and quicker way for you to actually build an e-commerce business. That said, like I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for university in some way, shape, or form. I do think that people tend to rush a little bit too much into university and college. Like myself, I know I was like right out of school and doing that. I made the decision when I was like 15 years old. When you're in grade 10, they're like, okay, what do you want to do with the rest of your life, young man? And I'm like, business. And so like, I think that part might need to change a little bit, and we might need to give young people more space to really decide what they want to do and feel into what's right for them. But I think there's tons of value still in college. And I think that although it's really hard for them to keep up, I think that they're doing as good of a job as they can. And there's always going to be a need for schools like that. Maybe not necessarily in entrepreneurship, but there's always going to be jobs of that nature. I think the world is shifting to be more entrepreneurial. And if you're the kind of person who can take an online course and go and start to meet people and go and do that, then no, of course you don't need college. But most young people don't necessarily have those social skills like that. So going and getting a degree or even getting 1 or 2 years will teach you whether you want that or not. I think it just comes down to the intent. And if people aren't going super far into debt because they want to get a piece of paper that's going to set themselves apart from all of the other hundreds of thousands of people that are getting that exact same paper, it's a little bit delusional. But if the intent is there and it's to learn, it's to develop, then absolutely, I think there's still a place for school.
Yeah, fantastic. I also think that the ability to network with people, like-minded individuals.
Yeah, I was super shy when I was younger, and it took me a while to really come out of that and to become the person I am now. And I'm still becoming that person, and we all are. But I think without those years and that exposure to that group of my peers, and I was super awkward in high school, and it was fucking terrible experience in a lot of different ways. When I look back, I loved it, but I was different as I grew up through university because, you start to come into your 20s instead of your teens, and you start to wake up to some things that you weren't attuned to before. So again, I think it's that giving of space and maturity and being around that many peers of your same age for that longer time certainly has its benefits. It's just pretty expensive.
It sure is, man. I'm still paying those student loans off. So, going into the entrepreneur world, though, and surrounding yourselves with other successful entrepreneurs, I think is also beneficial. And, you've built several businesses. You're constantly speaking at different events, too. So what do you think are some of the top traits that make a great entrepreneur?
Great question. Probably going to give the token answers. To be honest, I think it's the tolerance and the tough skin for failure. A lot of the stuff that's the most valuable knowledge I have that's now common knowledge to me is only there because it's burned in because of the mistakes that I've made. And someone asked me about this last night at the talk too. It's how do you develop that? And I didn't really know that I had that. I just knew that I was I had the drive, and I was I'm going to go make this work, and I'm so excited, and I'm going to go make money or learn this and go do that. And then by the time I hit the failure, I was oh no, that hurts so much, but I'm not willing to give up. And you kind of realize this, and it can be a bit of a dangerous cycle getting caught up trying to one up yourself. And I certainly don't recommend that, but I think it's probably the most important thing that somebody can realize about themselves is that, things might hurt in the moment, but they contribute to you being a more robust entrepreneur in the future. And that's certainly true for people that aren't entrepreneurs as well. The most painful experiences that I've had in my life, emotionally or physically or spiritually, have created the biggest growth and expansion periods of my life as well. But they also, if not dealt with properly, your business will fail, or you can fail personally. And, if something tragic happens, you can turn to drugs and alcohol, or you can be oh man, this hurts so much. I need to be with the people I love more. And you start to see the world differently and become grateful. So it can go either way. And I guess maybe that's comes down to another quality, which is just trying to have a positive attitude and coming from a place of gratitude, understanding patience and knowing that, it's okay to fail and to be grateful for those failures. Actually, I think I just described 4 qualities in one, but hopefully that in some way answers the question.
There's something about failure too that I talk about a lot when I'm, giving speeches, and it's always about being grateful for that failure. Can you explain how you're grateful for that failure?
I don't really know how I am. Sometimes, to be honest, I'm definitely not pretending I have it all figured out. In the moment, I get frustrated at things, sometimes very, very small things. But I've lately especially been trying to build daily gratitude into waking up, not checking my phone, journaling, and writing out my, expectations, not really expectations for the day, but my intention for the day is a better word, and what I'm grateful for. So it's really not necessarily about failure or business. It's just trying to be grateful for everything. And it is difficult in those moments when you screw something up and you lose money or you lose your time. But I think it just kind of comes back to yourself and to trying to put into perspective what things really mean. And at the end of the day, we're just these little primates on this little rock, which is a speckle in hundreds of billions of stars and galaxies. And, you're worried about spending an extra $5 on the wrong type of supplier or whatever, it's just, I guess, stepping back and putting things into perspective and asking hey, does this really matter? If are there worse things that could happen right now? Of course there are. This is fine. It's okay. It's part of the journey. Be grateful.
Excellent. So another thing too is you are super motivated, and you say sometimes when you fail, and it's funny actually, there's a quote I use by Mike Tyson, it says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And you're sitting there and you're like, I don't even know what to do. The biggest thing about starting businesses that's always shocked me is that how much stuff I don't know is going to happen the minute you start. And it's just like fires everywhere. So 2 questions. 1, how do you stay so motivated and excited about building a business? And then 2, when you do get punched in the face, what do you do?
Really great questions. I wish I'd prepared for this a little more, and we could have talked beforehand so I could have like the best answer possible, but I'll just go with my gut.
It's usually the best.
So what was the first question? How to prepare for?
Well, how do you get motivated and stay inspired for, starting these businesses, because it's a lot of work and you do stuff that's not always exciting. How do you stay excited and inspired?
It's a really good question. And I'm going through this like really big personal realization. When I started a lot of these companies, when I moved to California, it was out of this place of wanting to make money, and so that the motivation for me to make money, and you're supposed to start with why, like Simon Sinek says, and all this stuff. And my why was strong. I wanted to retire my parents. I wanted to provide this epic life for them and my sister. And I wanted to be seen as this like awesome entrepreneur, and this guy who'd been with celebrities and made a bunch of money. And it's really kind of like changed for me. And I've realized what is important. Unfortunately, like my father ended up passing away just this fall, and it was a very transformational experience for me in so many different ways. Yeah, for sure. And anyone listening, I'm sure they've gone through some form of loss that just kind of makes you put those small things in perspective. And really, even over the last couple of weeks, really, I've realized to be motivated over money is kind of like a little bit of a misguided thing. Like at the end of the day, I don't need to provide for everyone. I don't need to do all these things. I don't need to look a certain way or to act a certain way in order for people to like me or to love me. And to actually come back to gratitude and just like realize that, I'm doing the stuff that I want to do right now, and I'm doing things passionately, and I'm not focused on money anymore. I'm focused on providing value. And the more I'm doing that, the more motivated I actually get, and the more things start coming to me, and opportunities and money start coming to me, because I'm living in this place of, I'm not looking for this impossible dream that's going to happen in the future that's never going to exist. Like when you're like, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. That doesn't even make sense, because you could be in the best shape of your life and still want more. You know what I mean? It's kind of like getting this motivation from seeing yourself do it every day and being grateful for the things you've done and looking forward to the things you're going to do. But knowing that right now in this moment, as I speak this podcast, there's somebody out there that's listening that's going to get something from this. That makes me feel good. So I'm like jacked up to go and do another one the next time. And when I get off this, I'll have energy to go and write some content for a new blog post or a new module for my course or whatever it is. So previously it was start with why, and I want to retire my parents. I never got to do that with my dad, unfortunately. And that made me realize like he didn't actually need that. Where he is now, wherever that is, if it's infinite or if it's nothing, he doesn't need a Cadillac. You know what I mean? And he never did. So I've kind of realigned myself and my motivation to be more about doing things that I know are contributing positively and contributing value, and letting that be the motivation for more of that to come in. That was a really long answer. So hopefully
that's perfect, man. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad. And I think you're right, though, is that when you're faced with a sense of loss, even if it's not actual loss, but a sense of loss, it causes you to shift your perspective and look at things differently. I was very much the same. I was driven ridiculously by money. And in my head, and I still have this back in my head, so really relatable, is somehow I feel like I need to take care of everybody in my family. And I take care of myself really well right now and can kind of support my family, but not completely take care of them. And so it kind of pushes me. But I think if you do things only for yourself, it's not very fulfilling. When you do things for other people, it allows you to drive further. But then you get that sense of loss or the actual loss, like your father, where it shifts everything in a perspective in a single moment. And you realize all that stuff that I was chasing didn't even matter.
Yeah. And it's this very ironic state that you kind of become aware of too, where, you know, like you said, like when you're serving other people, you get this tremendously rewarding feeling. But unless you're taking care of yourself, unless you have like your own happiness and your own centeredness and groundedness at mind, there's no possible way you're ever going to be able to provide for all these people in a sustainable way. And not only that, they probably don't even need what you think you need to give them. And the best way you can show up for them in your life is to be the best version of yourself. It's this weird twisted irony where like, let's help everybody else out. But meanwhile, you're like, oh, like, A, they don't really necessarily need that help. And B, when they do need that help, I can show up more for them if I'm in a better place myself.
Yeah, a lot of people get inspired. They don't like to be told what to do,
Totally.
but they want to see the inspiration. They want to hear the story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that was a fantastic answer. I'm trying to think what the second question was. You know, when you are hit with failure, what do you do? How do you survive? How do you come back? How do you bounce back? How do you stay motivated? Because, and I'm not saying like the first failure. The first failure, everybody's always, oh yeah, no, I'm going to still do it. I've got the motivation. I've got the energy. I'm talking the 100th failure when you're just like, can this really go wrong again? I mean, what do you do then?
Yeah, I mean, it's really different in every moment. And I'm a human being. I have no idea what I'm doing on this planet or why I'm here. So I'm still trying to figure it out. So don't take me as any sort of expert in this, but I'm learning that it's that place of gratitude and just being like, man, I fucked up. Like I need to, I need to figure this out. And like, it's okay that I did because I'm human. And I'm sure many other people have made this mistake before, and just admitting that it happened and taking ownership for it and just trying to look for what you can integrate into your own life or your own business as a learning experience. And like, I think a lot of people forget the tremendous amount of capital that they build up within themselves and how qualified and how amazing and how smart they become by doing these things, myself included, you know. And it's really by looking back and helping somebody else out with something that has had a similar problem or facing a similar issue. You're like, holy crap, I've lived this and I know this and I can help them avoid that mistake. And it's a super rewarding thing. So, I mean, that's why I'm big on helping other people and encourage other entrepreneurs to do so too, because you get those moments of like, hey, you know, you forget your own value and you forget that you are valuable sometimes, and bringing life to those mistakes and adding value to those mistakes and reminding yourself that they contribute to the capital that is you, I think is a really great way to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just learning from failures. I mean, it's the hardest lesson I've learned is when you fail, not to just get upset or get down on yourself, but to actually learn from that. And I don't do it very well all the time either. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, but the biggest thing I try to do is not put myself down too much, but say, all right, I'm going to do it better next time.
Yep.
I still kind of put myself down because I'm like, I'm a little hard on myself, but it's just about doing it. You got to eventually start doing it at some point in time, because if not, you know, nothing will ever change. You'll just be stuck in your head.
Yeah.
So I'd love to shift over to building companies. For a lot of people out there that are thinking about starting a business or are in the middle of starting and growing their business, there's a lot of different stages to becoming a successful company. So I was wondering if you can walk us through just the different stages of growing a business from the startup to actual scaling it, and what we should focus on in each of those stages to really maximize our growth potential.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a hugely loaded question in a million different directions because it depends on so many different things. I think like...
You have 60 seconds. Go.
All right, I'm hanging up now.
Oh, man, I'm just kidding
with you.
So, go ahead.
I think like to start out in like, I guess the ideation phase is trying to think of something that adds value that's different out there. And, you know, what actually is the value proposition? What are you actually selling? And how can you be different than anything that's out there? And because of what we did, I hear a lot of people going like, hey, dude, I want to do the $1 blank club. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, well, like, what is this? And they're like, oh, we're delivering like toilet paper, for example, or something like that. We deliver it to your door every month for $1. I'm like, that's not really that's not enough, and there's not really enough value there. People will go and buy their own toilet paper because they don't need it delivered, or, that I shouldn't be using toilet paper because I'm sure there's actually delivery services for it that are doing quite well. And I'm just making myself seem like an idiot. I'm just using an example, is trying to figure out what the value of that product or service really is. And on top of that, what like the value add is from, I guess, like from an additional perspective of what kind of content you can create around that. What beyond the product can you deliver that's going to make it completely unique, that people are going to go to you and buy it from you. And this is something that companies that are just starting out, companies our size, and the biggest companies in the world. I've spoken at an event that had CMOs from, it's like a CMO summit. So I was talking to an audience of people that were directors of marketing from like Nike and Johnson & Johnson and Disney and like all these massive corporations. And they're having that same sort of identity crisis, which is like, how do we stay relevant? How do we create an identity that's worth following and that people resonate with? So it's that, like, I guess that's probably where I would start. And then from there,
I was going to say real quick is that this is so interesting. I just finished reading the book, The Four, which is about Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple, and how they're the race to $1 trillion, basically. And it was talking about how brands like Nike are struggling because Amazon has kind of taken over and taken away this brand appeal almost. And where it's the cheapest product, and they're delivering stuff like toilet paper to millions of homes all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're lowering the price, and they're at first they were doing it at a loss even. I mean, Amazon wasn't profitable for the first 7.5 years. And it's just so interesting. So I wanted to ask you, how do we, like, what kind of questions can we ask ourselves to find something that adds value? With Dollar Beard Club, how did you guys figure out that $1 for beard oil was going to be valuable to people?
So I'll be honest, completely honest here. We sort of got lucky. We had the best intentions at heart, but what we did was wasn't all luck. We took a look at what was out there in the marketplace, and we took a beard oil, which we knew we had to have $1 product in order to, like, I guess, hit that kind of goal. So our $1 product was kind of our loss leader. And we knew that few people would order just that product because we charged a flat fee for shipping, which was $3.99. So often people would order, $25 to $35 worth of stuff to spread that out. It really wasn't until we hit we hit some retention-based growing pains, and you can't have a scalable business. And it doesn't matter if you're a subscription business or a regular e-commerce business or a software business, it's the old adage of, like, it's easier to keep an existing customer than it is to go out and get a new one. So we weren't really scalable because we were spending all of this time and money and effort bringing people into the business and weren't paying proper enough attention on, like, how to retain them and make sure that they stayed in for longer and purchased more products and were happy with us and everything like that. So
when you said you had a loss leader. And I understand that because I looked at a subscription model, but basically you were selling something for $1, even though they were shipping and handling, and you guys are actually just losing money on that, right?
So yeah, if somebody were to check out and pay $3.99 shipping plus the $1 oil, we wouldn't make any money on that. And if it was going super far from our fulfillment center, we would lose a bit of money on that. But it was very rare because, like I said, we charged the $3.99 shipping. It was very rare for us to actually have people checking out with just that item. So people would want to add like a second or a third item to their box.
Right, because if I'm going to pay $4 to ship $1, exactly, I might as well pay $4 and ship a couple
exactly.
bottles of stuff.
And, we've since learned a lot about internet marketing and different ways to structure offers. And really we had a funnel issue where it's very common for people to offer a free plus shipping product in order just to get people's credit card information, most importantly, to get you on their email list. And then from there, it's all about creating a funnel where they ascend you up the value ladder to higher and higher value products. And the objective with that first product is just get people in the door. And then everything after that, you get 1 out of 100 people that's going to take a $200 item. 5 of 100 people are going to take the $5 item, you know, so you build that ladder and try and push people into the different spots for what fits for them. I've kind of digressed from what we were talking about. Oh yeah. So we really kind of, we're treading water, and we're trying to figure out what this, you know, what the secret sauce is. And this is that kind of aha moment of, you know, what are you really selling? And there was a couple members of ours actually went out and got Beard Club tattoos. They got our logo tattooed on them, which for us was like, holy shit, we've created something that's so sticky and so cool that people are getting it tattooed on themselves. And it was just like, we were blown away. And it wasn't even for a while after that, but I asked one of those guys, was like, hey man, like, why did you do that? Like, you know, he had stickers on his car and stuff, and I was just perplexed. There's like, you know, what is it about us that made you go out and be this like super fan? And he just started to pour his heart out and was like, hey man, I'm a super shy guy. It makes me feel amazing to use the products. It builds my confidence. And with like the marketing and like the decals that I have on my car and my tattoos and my beard, it's easy for me to go and talk to people, but I'm really shy. So now I have a reason to, and I can talk to them about the products and about the Beard Club. And we were like, oh man, this is insane. Like, we're not selling beard oil. We're selling like that. Like, that's the experience that people want from it. They can buy beard oil from Amazon, and it's going to be at their fucking door faster than we can do it. And people's expectations are such now that you get free delivery and it's there within 2 days because of Prime. That's really hard for an e-commerce company to compete with. And to match that, you've got to have something that Amazon doesn't, and they don't have what we can give them, right? So that was like a big aha moment.
It's like you built a community for him to belong to.
Absolutely. And we weren't even really like, we weren't internalizing the communications. Now, like, Beard Club's got some awesome stuff in the pipeline in terms of building an internal community with exclusive content and actual members experience, which we were delivering by accident through our marketing. But now it's going to be on purpose and focused on providing value for people, like actual awesome content and different features that people can incorporate a lot easier. So we're playing to that strength, and we know that that's going to allow us to sell more product, to retain people's attention, to get a higher average order value. So like all these other levers that we're paying attention to and pulling, they all get throttled hardcore. And not only that, if we're providing people with, you know, great like workout plans and nutrition advice and survival skills and dating and relationship advice and all the stuff that they're naturally going to want to come to us, and all the influencers that we work with, like, we're actually helping them and we're doing a good thing in the world. And like, that's something that as an entrepreneur, I think people forget all too often, is that we more than anyone get to influence the world. And I'm not saying that we're more important than any religious movement or any like charity movement, but like, business makes the world go round. And there's no saying that, you know, capitalism is this evil thing. And I sort of used to believe that myself, but I firmly believe that people like Elon Musk, who are using business and profit, are actually changing the world in massive ways that the government can't do, because people want their governments not to spend any money. They want amazing roads, but they don't want to pay taxes. So that gap of things that need to happen, like, all of us need to step up and realize the power that we have to make people's lives better, to make them feel better about themselves, to make their lives easier, and just go out there and be a better version of themselves so they can show up for their family. It just creates this epic ripple effect.
Totally. When you guys started, did you guys have capital, or did you raise capital?
So we actually, when we started Beard Club, we took a bit of our own money and invested it. It wasn't a heck of a lot of money, but we were able to juggle things around. At that time,
how much would somebody need to start a business, basically? Like,
I mean,
to get started? To
be honest, like, we were only able to go so big so fast because we invested about 80 grand almost entirely into our product portfolio. And then once we got started, we were cash flow positive right away, which is kind of different than needing to buy users or buy anyone like that. So we didn't need to go out and raise money. Like, we were able to pay ourselves back immediately. And pay the people.
How were you guys cash flow positive right away? Just because you had a selection of products? Or?
Because like, our profit margins were decent enough, right? So
gotcha.
That 80 grand was paid back really quickly. within the first couple of days and things going really well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like that, but we took a huge risk because we thought it was going to do well. And we had a 5-week lead time on our product. So we're like, let's go all in. Unless if we're going to do it, we're going to, push all of our chips onto the table. You can certainly start businesses in different ways. It's all about, I think, pitching the vision to your suppliers if you have a physical product. And for us, we were able to beat them down on price and be like, hey, this is all the stuff we have in place. And it's sort of a fake it till you make it kind of battle. But if you can sell your vision on how your company is going to operate, you can negotiate payment terms with your customers when you don't have a track record. Like, there's all sorts of amazing stuff you can do if you just really get resourceful with it. But we've never taken on any major funding. We took on 2 small rounds of a couple $100,000 each so that we could catch up on the inventory. And from then we've been funded with our own cash flow, which is it kind of forces us to find this really organically scalable business, because you have companies, multiple companies in the subscription box space or just e-commerce or software, and they have this tremendous growth curve, but they raise $50 million and they buy a bunch of customers, right? So that's something that we still have on the table for a later date, but we want to figure out how to put $1 in the machine and $10 comes out. And I love you know what I mean?
And I want to know, what did you guys do to grow what was the secret to growing fast?
Great content.
And acquiring so many customers.
Great content. That was the only reason we were able to do what we did. We made great videos. We recruited just an absolutely amazing videographer who did all of our creative work. We had a great graphic design person, and we, again, they were already on board from our previous ventures, but Chris is just this fantastic salesperson. He sold me on coming to California, and he was just able to communicate a vision so clearly. And it's one of the most important skills an entrepreneur can have. I guess we'll go back to the first question, but is really the ability to communicate that vision and be like, hey, we're going to do this, and this is where I'm going, and come with me, or maybe somebody who wants to come with me. And so because of that, we were able to recruit creative talent. It's something that I would highly recommend to everyone. And it doesn't need to be going and, signing a bunch of equity away. It doesn't need to be going and necessarily spending $30,000 on a video shoot. I'm actually, after this, I'm going out for coffee with a local guy who's just in film school, and I need some help with one of my courses. And I got linked up with him, and he's like, hey man, I'm trying to build my portfolio. And I was like, cool, man. I don't have a lot of cash flow from this project yet, but it's going to turn into more work. And if it, if you do a great job on this, absolutely, I'd be silly not to hire you. And it goes back to what I was first saying of finding those people that kind of get it, that they need to build their skills a little bit, and also get it that you can't pay them a lot yet because of the stage of your business. And you need to basically prove it to one another. And it's kind of a really cool vision exercise too. So for anybody out there who isn't making videos, I guarantee you can find a student out there who isn't focused on producing the next Steven Spielberg movie. They're interested in changing the way marketing is done, and really into branding and different stuff like that. So there's lots of people out there to get that great content.
Yeah, awesome. So creating great content, using videos. But once you've got that great content, you've got that great video, it's on YouTube. How do you market it?
We've predominantly grown through Facebook video marketing. That's been our really secret sauce. We've had our our videos were up on YouTube, and we didn't really focus on YouTube nearly as much as we should have, which is absolutely ridiculous because we do great videos. But for the longest time, we didn't have any how-to videos on YouTube, and we weren't sending people the proper indoctrination sequences when they first came on. So they would write our customer service, or they would go to YouTube and say how do I put in beard oil, or how do I put in beard balm? And they would find a competitor's video teaching them how to do so. So really, we figured out the hard way that YouTube's really important to build that backlog of content, because it's the second biggest search engine in the world, as far as I know. And Facebook marketing, though, for reaching people has been our bread and butter, and increasingly so Instagram marketing, mostly through videos. So just having great videos that have a great call to action that go to a landing page that converts fairly well, and dumping traffic on that. I will say that the caveat, though, is that it's getting harder and harder to make money on Facebook because everybody has the same idea of doing this, and they're also running out of ad inventory, and they're making it harder for you to display products to people. So really having a holistic view of all the different sources of traffic is important, and what works for one company might not work for another. And there's different levers that you can pull in terms of the content itself, the landing page, and conversion rate optimization and all this stuff. It gets pretty complicated, but I think like if people are just getting their feet wet, really going in and trying some videos and producing them yourself, or just if being the brand yourself, people completely underestimate how important they are to the brand. And really, like all of our videos, if you look at them, not all of them recently, but all of them in the beginning, all had Chris as the front and center. Like he's the founder of the company, and it's like this thing where you break down the barrier of like humanizing a company. You're not a Nike, so you can have like the head of your company there talking and building a relationship with somebody. So I think like people underestimate their ability to sell with an iPhone video if they're just telling their story. It's literally all I've done, and hopefully people want to buy beard products at the end of this.
Yeah. I have a question for you. You know, before, not to get into the really complicated stuff of landing page optimization, but just maybe that Facebook ad. What were some taglines or some, you know, writing or headlines that you guys used that we might be able to use that really worked for you and captured a lot of your audience?
To be honest, I'm not the Facebook marketing guy, so I can't share any specific tips. And I'm always really big on not being like, hey, I know everything, when I actually don't. So I don't know about specific taglines, but I know that testing those taglines is super important. And it is really like about finding your brand's voice and what resonates with what group of customers that you're targeting. So it's not necessarily that there are any tricks. It's that you just need to go and find out what tricks work for you. That's a very political answer.
Perfect.
Political way of saying I don't know.
Yeah, and I love that you're honest. You know, a lot of people out there pretend they know a lot of crap and they don't, and they're just, you know, blowing steam, and it's just bullshit. And that was one thing that I really liked about you. Just, you know, you're very honest. You're like, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm still doing it anyways, and that creates a lot of value. So because even though you're a serial entrepreneur and you've built all these different companies and some of them made millions in revenue, you know, still sometimes we don't know everything, which is important.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, speaking about making mistakes, what are some of the biggest mistakes new entrepreneurs make, and how do you like coach them to avoid it?
That's a really good question. You're full of those.
Thanks.
Oh man, you got me on that one. I think that there's just a plethora of mistakes that people make when they're first starting out and as they're continuing to grow. And I think the biggest mistake out of all of those, and again, I guess I'm going pretty like token with this one, is, you know, not learning from those mistakes or not seeing them for what they really are, which is just tremendous learning experiences. Because there's like literally, you could name an industry and there's like 500 common mistakes for each one. And I think like also like a really big one is not going out there and learning a bit more, not going into the education part of things. And it's kind of a tricky balance because you don't want to get caught up in going like, oh, I need to learn how to do this perfectly before I click launch. You certainly need to like hit launch and you need to just go out there and figure it out. But also being a little more careful and looking into things and researching things a little bit more before you try and go and do something. And then, you know, knowing when you need to call on an expert or ask for help because you actually don't know what the hell you're doing. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think what you said there too is just, you know, one of the biggest mistakes is that you're not learning from your mistakes and you're repeating them over and over again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, a very political answer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get personal real quick. Not that personal, but what is one of the, like a big failure for you as you've been growing these businesses? We really haven't dived deep into a story about failure necessarily, where you fell up short, and how did you overcome it?
I think there's been so many of them, like a couple really big ones that stick out. One is that one that I've already mentioned that won't be to death again, but it's like not knowing what the real product is and not really connecting what the real value of your product and service is and how that serves people.
Right.
Another one was actually failure to really pay attention to email marketing. We thought that email was like this dead form of communication. And so we weren't bringing people, when they purchased from us, we weren't teaching them how to use the product and talking to them and like bringing them into the club. We weren't doing like cart abandonment emails when somebody puts their information in and say they're on their phone and they're at the gym and they want to buy it, but they just are like, I don't want to bring my credit card out. It's hitting them with that email 2 or 3 times so that you can catch them at a better time to buy, capturing leads and then bringing them through this value ladder. So doing free plus shipping offers or tripwires or lead magnets and getting people in the door and then introducing them to the brand with email. Like, it is still the highest return on investment form of marketing. I mean, like, there's lots of stuff like Messenger and all these different things that are like coming up and ManyChat, but email marketing is still like a cash cow for your business. And that was the lesson learned the hard way from us as well, is how much money we were leaving on the table with email marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to get into, just as we finish up here, specific actions that we can take to grow our business. If you got a number one action, love that. But it kind of goes into what I talked about, is the 80-20 rule, you know, that 80% of our results come from 20% of our actions. But the key is knowing what actions give us the biggest results. I don't want to spend my time on, you know, ManyChat, and email marketing is where really I should put my focus on. So what kind of actions do you recommend we take?
In terms of like an itemized list of like where to get started and what the low hanging fruit is, kind of thing.
I mean, if you got a list, that'd be great. I just, yeah, sure. Like where to get started to grow the business.
I think like taking an inventory of the things that you're doing and kind of putting them into perspective of what other companies might be doing, right? So if you're like, this is what I'm doing for email marketing, and then you kind of like look into what other companies are doing for that, you can kind of benchmark where you might be able to progress. There's all sorts of stuff. Like, I actually am working on tools to help people do that right now, and I'm trying not to sell that on this podcast, but it's coming for me anyway, so follow me.
I appreciate that.
But no, like honestly, it's really like there's a lot of research that you can do, but I think a lot of people know in their hearts where they're struggling. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until somebody points it out, but you can know where you're struggling, where you need to improve. And then looking at what other companies are doing in your industry or similar industries as like a benchmark and being like, oh, cool. Like, I wonder if that's working, which also can be a trap actually, if you go and try and do something that isn't working. But then I guess lastly is just kind of reaching out to people that have done it before and being like, hey man, I'm trying real hard to figure this out. Can you help me?
Totally. What's crazy is that people a lot of times don't ask for help. And yeah. I'm shocked all the time when, people have built these incredibly successful businesses, really freely offer up some information and some guidance. They've built their business, and a lot of them that I know, especially as they get older, they're all about mentoring and helping other people do the same.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, it's just part of that process of giving back.
So I'm curious to know, actually, since we kind of touched on it for a second, what are you building right now?
So what I'm building is called Subscription Hacks, and it's essentially just the system that I've used through lots of failures, more or less, figured out the triggers and the levers that you can pull. Like, what are you doing for email marketing, for contract manufacturing, for fulfillment? It's kind of all these different areas of business and designed to get people kind of quick wins so they can go through the course and check out the module fulfillment and get ideas of how to do fulfillment better for themselves or with a partner, or how to find the right contract manufacturer, or, what are the top 5 email marketing tactics that they can turn on today that's going to make them a profit. And it's really kind of organically stemmed from doing all the stuff that I've been doing, and then, kind of coming to a place where I wasn't totally happy working with Beard Club anymore. I wasn't giving as much. I wasn't getting as much. And I've always wanted to help out entrepreneurs. I think it's the most rewarding thing in the world. So I just started writing out like an ebook, more or less, of, hey, here are like the 10 things you need to do to grow a bigger business. And then from that just kind of stemmed like the feedback people were giving me, like, hey, this is really great, man. You should turn this into a course, like film some videos. So it's a kind of ever evolving idea, but we'll be ready to launch the first version of the course in the middle of April. So I guess I said it out loud and that holds me accountable to it. But yeah, it really is about just about helping people. And I'm still not really sure like what messaging needs to change, what information I need to add in. So I'm kind of doing a rough launch of the course and getting people through to get feedback on how I can serve them better. So even in my pretending to know it all and to help people, I'm just being super humble about it and just figuring out the best way to actually help people and help entrepreneurs grow their business. So it's just one big learning experience, and I'm super excited about it because I get to work with entrepreneurs. I think it's the most rewarding thing in the world.
That's so cool, man. I got to tell you one thing is that I hear sometimes people say, oh, you just got to focus on adding value. And sometimes when other people, not you, but other people say that it's really add value so that I can get value, so I can get money, so I get paid. And I just want to point out that when you talk about adding value, I hear the honesty in your voice, and I'm grateful that there's people like you who are trying to provide a service to actually empower other people out there, because I'm very similarly want to do that for my mission in life. I feel like we help people. It feels good, and it makes the world a better place. And sometimes people go back and forth with, oh, I'm just trying to add value, and it becomes. It's like everybody needs a life coach or, really authentic. But when you say it, I really hear it. And I just want to say I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you too. You're doing important work. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 people listening or 500 million people listening. Like, the people that are listening are getting something from this. So I appreciate your value and that you're adding as well.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Like, do we just become best friends?
Yeah. Awesome, man. I would love to definitely stay in touch, because I love learning from people like you and staying connected with like-minded individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world is an ever growing place, but increasingly getting smaller. And I find that where I put my time is, getting harder and harder with so much distraction. So I really focus on trying to surround myself with people that are kind of on a similar path, because if not, then, all the goals and dreams that I have kind of fall away in front of distractions, and I lose my way a little bit. And it happens throughout life, but the more I'm around people like you, the more I stay focused and get what I want to do done.
Absolutely, man. It's just like holding up the mirror for one another, where you're like, hey, this, I see in you something that I see in myself. It keeps me encouraged, and really, like, I find like the older I get, the more people around me are just reflections of who I am and what I need to do or what I don't want to do. Or yeah, it's just really cool to meet other people doing cool things, and then encourage everyone out there to go and just keep talking to other entrepreneurs. And that's the easiest way to handle failure, is to just tell someone about it.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. I love that. Pulling up a mirror to each other. It's great. So Alex, where can we find you online?
You can find me thealexbrown.com. It's my website, and that has all my social handles and whatnot. And subscriptionhacks.com is a new course.
Awesome. I definitely want to check that out. And for anybody listening, I think after listening to this entire interview, I want to find out what those little levers are that we can tug at and maximize our success. So final question is, for you, after all the success you've achieved, what is your next level of success?
I really want to, going along the lines of focusing less on the money, like want to publish a book and just, speak to people, talk to people, start a podcast. I still don't know what that is for me personally, but I just know I want to devote my life to helping people, and whatever value comes back to me in the process, I think will be based on how much value I give to people, and playing more music. I've kind of lost track of that over the last couple of years of working hard. So I want to get back into music more. What
kind of music do you play?
All sorts of music. Play guitar and drums and try to sing.
Awesome, man. That is really cool. All right, Alex, thanks so much for coming on the Unleashed Success Show.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
If you guys enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that we have is please go subscribe.